Hey guys, it's Maddie, and if you've already watched my other video, you'll know that right now I am starting a new series called Storytime, and this is the first episode where I am reading, I should have already said it, but if you didn't know, it's called Vampire Kisses by Ellen Shreiber, and I am only reading chapter 1 today. So, let's get started. Chapter 1, Little Monster. It first happened when I was 5. I had just finished coloring in my kindergarten book. It was filled with Picasso-like drawings of my mom and dad, an Elmer's glued tissue-papered collage, and the answers to questions, favorite color, pets, best friends, etc., written down by our 100-year-old teacher, Mrs. Peevish. My classmates and I were sitting in a semicircle on the floor in the reading area. "Bradley, what do you want to be when you grow up?" Mrs. Peevish asked after all the other questions had been answered. "A firefighter," he shouted. "Cindy?" A nurse," Cindy Warren whispered meekly. Mrs. Peevish went through the rest of the class. Police officers, astronauts, football players. Finally, it was my turn. "Raven, what do you want to be when you grow up?" Mrs. Peevish asked, her green eyes staring through me. I said nothing. "An actress?" I shook my head. "A doctor?" "Nuh-uh," I said. "A flight attendant?" "Yuck," I replied. "Then what?" she asked, annoyed. I thought for a moment. I want to be a vampire," I shouted, to the shock and amazement of Mrs. Peevish and my classmates. For a moment, I thought she started to laugh. Maybe she really did. The children sitting next to me inched away. I spent most of my childhood watching others inch away. I was conceived on my dad's waterbed, or on the rooftop of my mom's college dorm under twinkling stars, depending on which one of my parents is telling the story. They were soulmates that couldn't part with the 70s. True love mixed with drugs, some raspberry incense, and the music of the Grateful Dead. A beaded, jeweled, halter-topped, cut-off blue-jeaned, barefooted girl intertwined with a long-haired, unshaven, Elton John spectacled, sun-tanned, leather-vested, bell-bottomed, and sandaled guy. I think they're lucky I wasn't more eccentric. I could have wanted to be a beaded-haired hippie werewolf, but somehow I became obsessed with vampires. Sarah and Paul Madison became more responsible after my entrance into this world. Or I'll rephrase it and say my parents were less glassy-eyed. They sold the Volkswagen Flower Power van that they were living in and actually started renting property. Our hippie apartment was decorated with 3D glow-in-the-dark flower posters and orange tubes with a Play-Doh substance that moved on its own. Lava lamps that you could stare at forever. It was the best time ever. The three of us laughed and played Chutes and Ladders and squeezed Twinkies between our teeth. We stayed up late watching Dracula movies, Dark Shadows with the infamous Barnabas Collins, and Batman on a black and white TV we received when we opened a bank account. I felt secure under the blanket of midnight, rubbing Mom's growing belly, which made noises like the orange lava lamps. I figured she was going to give birth to more moving Play-Doh. Everything changed when she gave birth to the Play-Doh. Only it wasn't Play-Doh. She gave birth to Nerd Boy. How could she? How could she destroy all the Twinkie nights? Now she went to bed early, and that creation that my parents called Billy cried and fussed all night. I was suddenly alone. It was Dracula. The Dracula on TV. They kept me company while Mom slept, Nerd Boy wailed, and Dad changed smelly diapers in the darkness. And if that wasn't bad enough, suddenly they sent me to a place that wasn't my apartment, that didn't have wild 3D flower posters on the walls, but boring collages of kids' handprints. Who decorates around here, I wondered. It was overcrowded with Sears catalog girls in frilly dresses and Sears catalog boys in tapered pants and perfectly combed hair. Mom and Dad called it kindergarten. "They'll be your friends," my mom reassured me as I clung to her side for dear life. She waved goodbye and blew me kisses as I stood alone beside the matronly Mrs. Peevish, which was as alone as one could get. I watched my mom walk away with Nerd Boy on her hip as she took him back to the place filled with glow-in-the-dark posters, monster movies, and Twinkies. Somehow I made it through the day, cutting and gluing black paper on black paper, finger-painting Barbie's lips black, and telling the assistant teacher ghost stories while the Sears catalog kids ran around like they were all cousins at an all-American family picnic. I was even happy to see Nerd Boy when Mom finally came to pick me up. That night she found me with my lips pressed against the TV screen, trying to kiss Christopher Lee in Horror of Dracula. "Raven, what are you doing up so late? You have school tomorrow." "What?" I said. The Hostess cherry pie I had been eating fell to the floor, and my heart fell with it. "But I thought it was just the one time," I said, panicked. Hold on. Okay. "Sweet Raven, you have to go every day." "Every day?" The words echoed inside my head. It was a life sentence. That night, Nerd Boy couldn't hope to compete with my dramatic wailing and crying. As I lay alone in my bed, I prayed for eternal darkness and a sun that never rose. Unfortunately, the next day, I awoke to a blinding light and a monster headache. I longed to be around at least one person that I could connect with, but I couldn't find any at home or school. At home, the lava lamps were replaced with Tiffany-style floor lamps. The glow-in-the-dark posters were covered with Laura Ashley wallpaper, and our grainy black and white TV was upgraded to a 25-inch color model. At school, instead of singing the songs of Mary Poppins, I whistled the theme to The Exorcist. Halfway through kindergarten, I tried to become a vampire. Trevor Mitchell, a perfectly combed blonde with weak blue eyes, was my nemesis from the moment I stared him down, when he tried to cut in front of me on the slide. He hated me because I was the only kid who wasn't afraid of him. The kids and teachers kissed up to him because his father owned most of the land their houses sat on. Trevor was in a biting phase, not because he wanted to be a vampire like me, but just because he was mean. He had taken pieces of flesh out of everyone but me, and I was starting to get ticked off. We were on the playground, standing by the basketball hoops, when I pinched the skin of his puny little arm so hard I thought blood would squirt out. His face turned beet red. I stood motionless and waited. Trevor's body trembled with anger, and his eyes swelled with vengeance as I mischievously smiled back. Then he left his dental impressions in my expectant hand. Mrs. Peevish was forced to sit him against the school wall, and I happily danced around the playground, waiting to transform into a vampire bat. "That Raven is an odd one," I overheard Mrs. Peevish saying to another teacher as I skipped past the crying Trevor, who was now throwing a fit against the hard black top. I blew him a grateful kiss, and with my bitten hand, I wore my wound proudly as I got on the school swing. I could fly now, right? But I'd need something to take me into warp speed. The seat went as high as the top of the fence, but I was aiming for the puffy clouds. The rusty swing started to buckle when I jumped off. I planned to fly across the playground and all the way to a startled Trevor. Instead, I plummeted to the muddy earth, doing further damage to my tooth-marked hand. I cried more from the fact that I didn't possess supernatural powers like my heroes on TV than because of my throbbing flesh. With my bite trapped under ice, Mrs. Peevish sat me against the wall to rest, while the spoiled, snot-nosed Trevor was now free to play. He blew me a teasing kiss and said thank you. I stuck out my tongue and called him a name I had heard a mobster say in The Godfather. Mrs. Peevish immediately sent me inside. I was sent inside a lot during my childhood recesses. I was destined to take a recess from recess. Okay, guys, that was chapter 1 of this book, Vampire Kisses by Ellen Shreiber. Sorry. So I hope you liked it. If you did, you can like and comment and subscribe if you want. I don't know. But I will be uploading another video And I should have already uploaded the video talking about this story time thing that I am now doing right now. So, yeah, I love you guys so, so much.